Hey, today we're going to go over a developer's response about finally being able to sit down to discuss a roadmap. He also talked about how there was a first-person view for mechs, there's also going to be a DSS balance, and there's so much more I'll be going over in this video. If you'd like to support the channel, please hit the like button below at any point by hitting the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's start off with the roadmap discussion. We know from my previous video that the Arrowhead developers are planning on releasing a roadmap at some point that will feature what they're planning on doing without there being any spoilers. The same exact developer, Cefez, went into detail about why it took so long for them to finally sit down and discuss what their plans are for the roadmap. So right here you can see the developer Cefez responded to a player stating that they don't want to spoil anything and that there's something magical that happens when the community discovers new things that they're working on. The same player responded back to Cefez on the Helldivers 2 Discord, stating that the radio silence as of late and the long updates between, he just doesn't feel like it's worth it. The developer Cefez responded back that they're having internal discussions for what the roadmap should be. Their response can be seen here, and he wrote, "Yeah, we're having internal discussions for what a roadmap for our game could look like. We do see the value in letting the community know that we're working on exciting things and roughly when those could be released to give you something to look forward to. But there's also the flip side to that where we want this immersive narrative to happen where things could come to as much of a surprise to a player as it does to Super Earth. It's something we're still trying to figure out." So you can tell they're planning on releasing a roadmap eventually. There's just no estimated arrival as to when we can expect it, which does suck. However, there's a reason as to why it's been taking so long for them to discuss a roadmap, and the developer Cefez explained exactly why after a member of the Discord replied to his post and basically stated that it feels like they're never going to make a decision about it. Cefez, the developer, wrote back and said, "It is a valid point. I get the feeling and where you're coming from. It does feel that way, but from our perspectives, we've only recently started to have time to properly sit down and think about these things. We've been scrambling to figure out how to run a live service game, and we're only just now starting to find our pace, I would say." Well, as you can see, it seems like the roadmap discussion took a while because they've been struggling as of late to figure out how to properly run a live service game, which is interesting. Perhaps now they'll be able to actually sit down and figure out what their plans are officially. We know they want to keep it spoiler free, which is perfectly okay, and I'm all for that. Anyway, what I'd like to see from the roadmap is basic stuff that they're planning to update, such as the Galactic war map, vehicle stratagems, armor customization that they've talked about in the past. With that said, what would you like to see them include on the roadmap? Would vehicles be a spoiler, or would you welcome it? Let me know your overall thoughts about this. Now, the last thing I would like to bring up about the roadmap is that Arrowhead is currently talking to Sony about a roadmap and what they can reveal. The conversation started when a player wanted to know if Arrowhead can actually just send out a tweet or talk about what they're planning on doing through X or Twitter or whatever, or even on the Discord. And the Helldivers 2 developer wrote this back in response. "It wouldn't be difficult, but there are risks associated with it, such as overpromising and under-delivering content. We care very deeply about our players, and we know how passionate people can be about the game, and as such, we're also aware amount of scrutiny we're under and how quickly things can change. Much with what we saw with how Escalation of Freedom wasn't particularly well received. We're talking internally and with Sony right now about different ways we can deliver a content roadmap for the community that doesn't spoil any surprises, but still allows people to have something to look forward to, and it'll hopefully happen sooner than later. Spoiling things early means we won't get the same awesome community reactions as we had when we cold released the Shriekers and Factory Striders, for example." Yeah, so towards the end, I absolutely agree with that. We don't need any spoilers about enemies, different types of weapons, or stuff like that, right? But if they include stuff about the customizations for armors or different vehicles and whatnot, I don't think that would be a big spoiler. But again, feel free to let me know what you think about this. As I've mentioned, that's what I would like to see, and I don't think it would be a huge spoiler at all. Next up, did you know the developers supposedly had plans to introduce a first-person view for the Exosuit? Neither did I. Apparently, there were technical issues that stopped them from implementing the first-person mode. If you check out this member's post that replied to the Arrowhead developer Cefez about it, the member said it would be cool to see a first-person view for the Exosuit. Cefez responded back and said, "I'm pretty sure we had that at one point, but had to remove it due to technical constraints. But my memory is pretty bad, so I might be misremembering. I can't check with the team, but I do think it's a larger feature to try and get done right." As you can tell, he clearly states that he might not be able to recall that memory correctly. Nonetheless, if it's true, then I think it would be a neat feature to have for the exosuits, and they should definitely discuss that and think about adding it at some point down the road. Perhaps once they have figured out the content for Helldivers 2 moving forward, then they could take a better look at the mech suits. Since we're on the topic of mech suits, if you haven't watched the prior Helldivers 2 video I uploaded, then you should definitely do that after this video. They went into detail that there's going to be an update for the mech. However, we don't know exactly what it'll be. But we as a community on this channel have an idea. We think it'll either be a stratagem launcher, 2 mechs in 1 loadout, or they're planning on implementing a way to repair or refill our mechs with the ammo. Now, what do I believe will happen? I believe the most likely outcome will be a stratagem launcher, since that was brought up in a leak last month, or there will be a way for us to use 2 mechs in the same loadout. I think it'll be one of those 2 options. Also, before we move along, the same player suggested an idea to the Arrowhead developer that they should have 2 aiming circles on the mech. Then the developer Safez in response said that he brought this up with the developers. If I receive any news about this, I'll be sure to keep you all updated on the Exosuit news. Continuing forward, the developer Safez was asked whether or not they have plans to introduce new ammo types, such as corrosive or ammo that can freeze enemies. I thought this was a great question to ask, and his response to that can be seen here. He replied back with this: "We've discussed this before, and we're still in the process of exploring options. One concern we have is ensuring that everything feels grounded in reality rather than resembling something straight out of a Dungeons and Dragons rulebook. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's crucial for us to stay consistent with the internal logic of the Helldivers universe, maintaining our own rules to keep the experience immersive and believable. It's something that becomes quite noticeable when we don't follow our own rules, and it's quite tricky to get it right." This right here, I completely understand that they don't want to have something that resembles Dungeons and Dragons, yet at the same time, Helldivers is a sci-fi game, and it would make complete sense in the Helldivers universe if there were different ammo types like corrosive, or ammo that can freeze enemies. Plus, we're technically frozen in pods before we're awoken and sent to the main part of the Super Destroyer. So cryo weapons seems like a possibility, at least in my opinion, as well as corrosive weapons. Now, I don't think any of that makes me think about Dungeons and Dragons or games like Path of Exile 2 or whatever the case may be, right? I would for sure love to see new weapons with different ammo types. It would make things way more interesting. On a different note, we know the developers have plans to release an update in the future that improves the Galactic war map, and we might have more information as to what that is. One member wrote to Safez and asked if there are any plans for a Helldivers 2 app, and in response, Safez said, "We're working on UI improvements for the Galactic War to expose more information that's available on companion apps. We've heard plenty of feedback on this, and I'm driving some of that work currently." So as you can tell, no, there will not be a Helldivers 2 app, and that's okay that there's not an application coming. Nonetheless, they have plans to improve the Galactic war map so that it will have planet information just like the companion app, and that I believe is going to be a game changer for future major orders. I'm sure we'll see DK rates, possibly notifications if we can pull a gambit on a planet, and so much more that the companion app currently offers. Speaking of the Galactic war map, we recently unlocked the Democracy Space Station, and it can be viewed from the war map, obviously. However, there's a problem with the cooldown rates. They're a bit too long. A player on the Helldivers 2 Discord asked about it. He wanted to know why the orbital bombardment and blockade takes 24 hours to charge, yet the Eagle Storm takes several days. The developer Safez replied and said, "We're looking at the DSS balance and we're tweaking things to improve the player's experience with it, so expect a few things to change." First off, I want to say I wouldn't take this as if it's a nerf balance. I think he's suggesting that they're going to improve it so that certain tactical actions are not as long as they currently are. Secondly, I can't wait to see the laser tactical action that was brought up a few days ago. Overall, I'm looking forward to the DSS improvements. Lastly, the Arrowhead team is working on optimizations right now. We can see a post by a player on the Helldivers 2 Discord that mentions that they need to see more optimizations, and that when there are big explosions, they lose a little bit of FPS. We can see that the support team member Misty replied that they're working on it. If you're having FPS issues, then expect a patch in the near future that will help with the game's performance. Alright, moving away from the developers and the support team response, we're going to check out what the Gloom looks like from the inside. If you head over to Socorro 3 right now, you can actually see the Gloom, and you can also see a planet in the distance that's dark. And I wonder if the leaks are true, then we're going to end up on a planet that's a lot darker visually, and if so, that means we're going to be using the orbital illumination flare very soon. With that said, we're most likely going to fail the newest major order, and we're not going to be able to pick up the new gas mines. You can see we only have 6 hours left as of right now, but by the time you're watching this, it'll probably be 3 hours left or so, right? Anyway, on the companion app, we can see the estimated time is 14 hours, so it's safe to say we're not going to be completing this major order at all. I know a lot of you are not fans of the gas mines, but I actually found it quite fun to use. I primarily use 3 stratagems together, such as Gatling Barrage, Napalm Barrage, and the Orbital Gas Strike. The Orbital Gas Strike is amazing when paired with those 2 stratagems. However, I had a blast using the gas mines with that combo, and it was actually good. I know that the gas mines are not for everyone, or really mines in general, yet the gas mines are quite useful to use. Now, what I'd like to know from you all is whether or not you have given the gas mines a try. If so, did you like it after trying it out? Or are you still against using mines in general? I'd love to know your thoughts about this because, as I've mentioned, I like it. Okay, let's talk about negative super credit balance. The support team recently created a post on their support site that talks a little bit about it and why it happens. Yet before we get into that post, I'd like to give you more context as to what's going on. There's been reports as of late that players have been seeing a negative super credit balance. For instance, there's a Helldiver on Reddit that created a post showing a negative 110 super credits, as you can see in the top right corner. Eventually, the Helldiver was able to get it resolved. Now that you know what's going on, let's see why it happens. There's a post here created by the support team, and they wrote, "This may sometimes happen to some players under a very specific set of circumstances. The chain of events that caused this is the following. Number 1, you purchased the Super Citizen Edition and therefore unlocked the Stilled Veterans War Bond automatically. Number 2, on the Stilled Veterans War Bond, you unlocked packs of super credits. Number 3, you then refunded the Super Citizen Edition and you lost access to the Stilled Veterans War Bond itself, as well as anything you had unlocked in it, including the super credit packs. The super credits that you had received from the Stilled Veterans War Bond were automatically deducted from your inventory upon refunding the Super Citizen Edition, which made your super credits go in negative values. However, due to a visual bug, the UI may sometimes glitch out and instead show that your super credits are in the billions. This is only visual. Your true super credits value is still in the negatives if this occurs. If you repurchase the Super Citizen Edition or unlock Stilled Veterans with super credits in game, then the super credits will automatically be restored. Otherwise, if you pick up super credits in game, they will be added to your account normally, and you will eventually go back to positive values. Well, those are the reasons behind it. However, if you have experienced this recently and you haven't done any of that, then I highly suggest you send the support team a message on the Arrowhead support side. I'll provide a link below where the sources are so you can send a support ticket in. I hope this helps out since I know there are a few of you out there that are experiencing this recently. Not only did the support team post that, they also updated us on the feedback forums. You can actually send in more feedback if you would like to. The proof can be seen here, and they said, "Thanks for letting us know how you're really feeling about the game. Player sentiment is invaluable for us. We look at it all the time and it helps us guide Helldivers 2 towards being the best it can be. Please go to submit feedback. You can submit a piece of feedback through this form once per week of up to 2,000 characters, but it helps to be concise. Bear in mind, we are seeking feedback regarding the current gameplay experience and are not looking for specific feature requests, suggestions, or ideas at this time. Rest assured, all feedback sent there is read, collated, and directed to the proper teams and channels." There you go. If you would like to send in feedback about the game, then definitely do so. I know there are a few that thought this forum had ended and that they were not taking in feedback anymore, except for the surveys that are occasionally sent out. Nonetheless, they are for sure taking in feedback still. And I will also provide a link below in the description where the sources can be found so that you can send in your feedback to them. We're now going to talk about your suggested loadouts. If you posted one before in a different video, post it again in this video and I might just select it. We have a suggested loadout from a player named Alt that provided this loadout here. We're using the plasma shotgun for groups of enemies, the Senator for any armored enemy like gunships, hulks, shielded devastators, rocket striders, and basic enemies. The grenade choice is going to be thermites for dealing with hulks, of course, and fabricators. The stratagems we have are the anti-material rifle, which is amazing on hulks, gunships, and rocket striders. Just make sure you're using an armor type with peak physique so you can handle the AMR better. We also have the shield generator for blocking damage. Lastly, the 2 stratagems are going to be the 500 kg bomb for basically everything, and the HE barrage for larger bases. It's overall a spectacular loadout that is great for demolishing hulks and taking out gunships easily. A very solid loadout for bots, and I highly suggest you try out Alt's loadout. It's a 5-star General Brash loadout for sure. With all the information being said, this is your Helldivers 2 news. If you guys would like to comment down below and be featured in the next video, all you have to do is comment, and if you get enough upvotes, you might just be featured. The first top comment is by Sway583. The mech update could be the stratagem launcher like in HD1 where you could launch stratagems from inside the mech. You could clearly see there was a spot for it on the top right side of the mech in HD2. Now, I think you're absolutely right about that, and if it's true, then I think this is going to be a game changer for sure, because, you know, right now, we have to exit out of the mech in order to throw a stratagem, and if we could throw one inside the mech, that's going to make a big difference. The second top comment comes from a subscriber named Just Call Me John, please. Honestly, I'm taking a break from HD2. The constant report of content, yet months to wait on it, is killing my desire to play. Nothing against the devs, I'll probably check back in 2025. This right here is perfectly fine, and I think that's okay because, you know what? There might just be some content revealed this week during the Games Awards, so we'll figure out what's happening there, and I'll be sure to update you guys on that. And the third top comment is by Laser Tractor. Having raw numbers in patch notes will be misleading. Bro, what? I still remember first crossbow nerf where patch notes were saying slightly decreased explosion effect. Slightly from 8 to 3 meters, numbers will be misleading. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I remember the crossbow nerf as well, and it wasn't well received. So yeah, I absolutely know where you're coming from, and man, hopefully things get better from here on out, because yeah, you know what? If they were to include numbers and be very specific about what they're nerfing, I think that would make a big difference in terms of patch notes, right? Because we'll know what's going on, what they're nerfing, what they're not nerfing. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. So those are the top 3 comments. Thank you guys so much for commenting down below. If you haven't already, give this video a like. And if you're not subscribed, do now. It's completely free. Just tap the red button below. And if you guys would like to support the channel even more, there is a membership I do have, and you can join that down below as well. It's in the descriptions, or you can click the join button there as well. But yeah, overall, I appreciate your guys' support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.